Somebody spilled the water on the track and I go straight in the wall. So I took one risk, the car was destroyed. I didn't look back, no, not one time. For sure the most enjoyable is the racing.
Markus Kajak is Estonia's shifter karting prodigy who ranked P2 in International Shifter Rankings in 2024. WSK wins and championships, the US Supernationals podium and IAME Shifter World Champion title are only a few of many highlights of this young man's career. Together with Markus, we're the only two drivers that have claimed Estonia's Karting Driver of the Year this decade so far. So I gathered it was worth inviting him over to discuss the hottest karting topics and hear his craziest stories.
Do you prefer, like, for example, faster track, a slower track, more technical track?
For sure a faster one.
A faster one?
Yeah. It's a bit more difficult to get everything right. On a tight and twisty track, usually the more aggressive you are, the easier it is, but on a fast and flowing track, it really plays a role if you're calm while driving. I usually don't like so much the testing and training so much because it's quite, I'd say, boring for me. So yeah, for sure race is more fun and teaches a lot more.
What has been the biggest crash that you've had?
2 years ago in the IAME World Finals in Le Mans, somebody spilled the water on the track and I go straight in the wall. The one in Las Vegas, it looked big on the screen.
Does he dive to the apex, down to the bottom, side-by-side contact, they're in the mirrors, they're both in the wall!
The car was destroyed, the axle was bent, the chassis was bent. The first 15 laps I didn't look back, no, not one time, just focus on my race. But after, there was a big screen next to the track and you can see a little bit from the corner if you arrive, somebody's closing in. I took one look at the screen one time, I saw him on the live stream, I'd say. Then the next lap I look again a bit closer, next lap even closer, start to get a bit more nervous because I saw there's not many laps left. So I took one risk, closing the last corner. Then the first corner is so difficult to block, I chose not to.
Morgado knows he's all by himself. Does he dive to the apex, down to the bottom, side-by-side contact, they're in the mirrors, they're both in the wall! Just a couple of laps away from what could have been the biggest win of that young man's career.
Yeah, for sure. If you don't have much experience and you're in the front, you start to get nervous, start looking back, lose the focus. So yeah, the more experience you have, the more calm you can stay on the track.
How many races have you made this year?
Races about 22, plus all the testing and coaching. A bit too much, I'd say, because in the end it messes your mind a bit. Not a bit, but a lot, to be honest. It's difficult to, after 3 consecutive races, to find the motivation and really difficult to focus. But yeah.
Especially when the results don't always come in.
Yeah. Also the year before I had quite a lot, but we also had some small races. But usually the big races drain a lot of your mind. Most is the mindset you have. The mindset changes a lot of your behavior on the track to stay calm and collected. Because when your mind is all around, then it makes it really difficult to focus. And the next one for sure is doing a lot of laps and getting the perfect, driving wise. It depends on the level, of course. For example, in the WSK, FIA and such high-level international races, I'd say the engine difference is not so big. It's just that some drivers prefer to have a bit more power on the bottom of the engine, some a bit more on the top. So it creates a little bit irregularity, I'd say. But in the end, the engines are quite similar. For sure, the engine from the tuners are always better. For now, for sure it's LeConte, I think. Also Vega is okay, but LeConte is now the best. But usually in a lot of grip, LeConte gives so much grip that most of the time the chassis gets stuck on the ground and it's really difficult to drive.
Who has been the driver that you have most enjoyed fighting with? Who has taught you the most on track?
To be honest, I don't have such a driver. I usually take small pieces of everybody and then put together a big like file, I don't know how to say. Because for sure in every racing situation I get a bit more smarter. Even if you're experienced, for sure there is something that teaches you all the time. Because in the top level you're always trying to find the last half a tenth.
Wish I had his file. As Markus said, we constantly learn and always have something to pick up from others. In order to save you a few years of shifter driving experience, Markus extracted his zip folder before our eyes on Kart's platform. We're just scratching the surface and having a great time here. But if you're really looking to switch to shifters or finally tired of battling in the mid-pack, then join me and Markus at kartlytics.com and scan his folder onto your hard drive.
At the last WSK in Cremona, there was one driver who got a bit angry at me and then hit me quite on purpose in the braking zone. After that my head was spinning for 3 or 4 days straight and it was really difficult to focus on stuff, and the head is hurting and no like balance. Usually the race ends in the end of the week, so whenever there's a new race everybody's back to normal, and because in the top level everybody understands that it's important to finish the race in the top than rather crash.
But if you come from a hard race or a row of hard races, what do you think before the next one?
As soon as the race starts, like you forget the last one immediately. Usually it's good to take a small break, maybe like 1 week, reset your mind and then go again. Because if you have so many like bad races in a row, you start to lose a lot of motivation to even drive, and then it's difficult to fight in the front and finding the limit. For sure the most enjoyable is the race in Las Vegas, between the barriers and just no room for mistake. You have to take maximum out of everything, and it's the most enjoyable. But in the US is typically like a bigger show than in Europe. In Europe the races are a bit more professional, I'd say. But the show part in USA is crazy, especially with the car chaser doing all the posts and everything.
Just say for another KZ2 driver, for example, where should they go?
For sure, in the beginning, there's no point going to the USA. USA is different in its own way, but I've been only in the US at Newcastle and then Vegas. But Vegas is on a parking lot, so it's not really like a proper track. For sure, if you're a beginner, national championships, then after that I think is a couple of WSKs just to get used to the driving in foreign countries, and after that FIA karting. To be honest, physically it's similar to the other FIA categories such as OK, but just the shifting makes it a bit more harder because you have to really brake with one hand all the time and keep your focus on the gears and on the brakes, and it's a bit more difficult, but overall it's quite similar, I'd say.
So Markus, what would you say is your favorite karting track?
To be honest, I don't have a favorite track. Every track is different in its own way and requires different driving, I guess. So every track for me is a track on its own, and it's difficult to find the best one. It depends on the curb. I mean, if the curb is really high, then for sure it's better not to hit, but if you can hit it with an OK, then for sure you can go with KZ2. In Europe, usually no, only in the rain, but in US, 2 years before, we had to use the first gear a lot. Also last year in Vegas, first gear a lot, but this year there were no corners with first gear. So the track was a bit more open and you could keep it the second.